What up guys, this is xtswarzone, with what, talking like a Wargamer 3, shall we say it. If you've watched the previous episodes in the Talking Like a Wargamer series, you will remember I said I was thinking about writing a game, and I've written some of it. So I'm just going to read some of it to you. In fact, I'm going to read all the ones I've written to you. Don't have to watch them. Completely up to you. But here we go. Introduction. This game is designed so that any miniature can be used to represent any single unit. No particular miniatures are intended to be used in this game. Just that it should be a fun tabletop war game for anyone to enjoy without having to spend any money on specific miniatures, etc. Rules. Please note that any rule or specification that states +1 or the like to the die rolling value is applied as so. For example, add 1 to unit's WS application if unit's WS is 5, then art applications unit's WS is 4. Blah 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 blah. Also note that this game is a turn-based system, and so a player must be decided to go first, and then play continues in that order. E.g., 3 players roll 1 dice each and decide the highest die roll goes first. The rolls are 3, 2 and 6, so the player who rolls 6 goes first, then the player who rolls 3, and so on. Play then continues in that order. Section 1A. Infantry. Please note a single unit is referring to one miniature rather than a group of miniatures. Each unit in this game will either be an infantry unit or a vehicle. This section covers infantry. Also, each unit will have a base cost. See unit frame chart, and then more in addition due to upgrades. See weapons chart, armor chart, etc. Each single unit will have these values. 1. Weapon skill, or WS, determines die rolls when shooting opponents. Melee skill, MS, determines die rolls when in melee combat. Weapon fire rate, WFR, the number of dice rolled when shooting. Armor value, AV, the miniature defense against attack. Bravery, B, whether the miniature flees the battlefield, in brackets, under certain conditions. These values can be affected by a number of things, affecting WS. Blah 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 blah, you can read that if you wanted to play it. Units can be split into squadrons, or squads. To be in a squadron, there must be one commander. See unit frame chart for details on the commander frame. Any number of squads can be used in an army, as long as they are under the cost restriction decided by all players in battle. In battles involving 4 or more squadrons, a general must be present in the army list. This is the only time a general will be present in any army list. Section 1B, Infantry Combat. This is where it gets interesting. So shooting. Step 1 in shooting. Roll the same number of dice as the value of the unit's WFR, weapon fire rate. So if the weapon fire rate is 3, I would roll 3 dice. Step 2. Look at the unit's WS. This is the minimum value of the die roll must be for the roll to be successful. E.g., if a unit's WS is 5, die roll must be 5 or above to be successful. 3. Roll all the successful dice again, then do as according to this. Roll a 6, the targeted unit is insta-killed. Roll a 4 or 5, the targeted unit loses 2 AV or armor value points. Roll a 3, the target unit loses 1 AV or armor points. Roll a 1 or a 2, the shot has failed to hit its mark, targeted unit takes no damage. When a unit reaches 0 AV, it is deemed as dead. Any dead units, insta-killed or otherwise, are removed from play. So that's shooting. I thought I'd make it relatively easy to shoot, so it's not anything too chunky. 1 sec, I just need to plug my phone in. Ta-da! Right, continuing on, I might skip a few bits, but melee combat. For a unit to engage melee combat, it must be in base contact with an enemy unit. 1. Roll 1 dice. Look at the unit's WS. This is the minimum value of the die roll must be for it to be successful. So like the step in shooting, except it's 1 dice. Reroll all successful dice again. Look at the unit's MS. This is the minimum value of the die roll must be for it to count as a hit. Step 3. The player in control of the target's unit rolls 1 dice for each hit against it, then does the following. Roll a 5 or 6, no damage taken. Roll 3 or 4, the target unit loses 1 AV. Roll a 1 or 2, the targeted unit loses 2 AV. So, as you can see, shooting is better than melee combat, unless you have certain upgrades. Bravery. So a unit makes a bravery test when a unit is down to 2 or less AV and is still in the field. Or by any special rules. But I haven't written any special rules yet. So, to make the bravery test, roll 1 dice, look at the bravery value. This is the minimum value the die roll must be to be successful. If the die roll is successful, then the unit has passed the bravery test and stays in the battlefield. Then, however, if the die roll is unsuccessful, then the unit must flee in the opposite direction of the enemy. Enemy forces by 6 inches. The turn after bravery test was failed. If the unit is still in the battlefield, then it must retake its bravery test at the start of the turn, and then every turn after that until it is either killed or is off the field of play. If the unit is off the battlefield, it is counted as dead and can no longer participate in the battle. So yeah, I'm getting a bit tired of speaking now. Nearly finished with the rules I've written. So, section 1D, cover. Before shooting, the player shooting must identify which enemy units are in the shooting unit's line of sight. Enemies fully hidden from view cannot be shot at by that unit. Each unit will have a different line of sight, so it must be checked before any shots are fired or dice rolled. However, if the unit is partially obscured, the shooting unit cannot see the whole miniature, then the partial cover rule will come into play. The partial cover rule. If the shooting unit gets any successful hits on the targeted unit, then the targeted player rolls 1 dice, then does the following. 5 or 6, the shot has failed to hit the target. 4. Reduce the armor value points lost by 1. 1, 2 or 3, the targeted unit takes all damage depicted by the shooting unit. And when a unit shoots at an enemy unit that is higher up than the shooting unit, the partial cover rule is also applied. Section 1E, movement. Movement is important, obviously. All infantry have a standard movement of 6 inches. This can be varied. And then vehicles, which I haven't covered yet, which I haven't written rules for yet, or have different values, so I won't cover that. However, these movement values are only basic. The unit's weight will affect its movement as well as other special rules. To see these, see the movement sheet and the special rules chart. This is about terrain. Difficult terrain will either help or hinder a unit's movement. All terrain on the battlefield should be agreed upon by each player in terms of positioning, e.g. to ensure no player has an advantage, unless of course you wish for this to spice up the game a bit. Terrain can be deemed to either be mysterious, dangerous terrain, or simple terrain. Mysterious terrain is terrain which is not known by either player to be dangerous or simple. To determine which type of terrain it is, roll 1 dice when a friendly unit enters the terrain. If you roll a 1, 2 or 3, the terrain is simple. 4, 5 or 6, the terrain is dangerous. Once a mysterious terrain is revealed, and it's known to all players then after. Then, if a piece of terrain is simple, but it has no hindering effects on the units. In fact, the relief that it's simple allows the unit to move an extra 2 inches through the terrain. That's a whole 2 inches. Then if a piece of terrain is dangerous and then it has a detrimental effect on the unit's movement. The unit must roll 1 dice. If it rolls a 5 or 6, the unit moves through without any effect. Roll a 3 or 4, the unit suffers some exhaustion, so the movement is halved. Unit 2, the unit cannot move that turn, and roll a 2, the unit cannot move that turn, and roll a 1, the unit suffers 3 armour value points worth of damage from the dangerous terrain. Move on to section 1F, outfitting your miniatures. When outfitting your miniatures, you will need to consider various things with which will determine how your units perform in the battle. Your unit must have at least one weapon, but a maximum of 2. The unit must be outfitted with armour. This will affect its AV. If no additional armour is equipped to the unit, then the units will have the AV stated on the unit frame chart. Also, any other values can be altered by equipping the unit with special rules. See the special rules chart. So that is a brief overview of the rules. I think I'll leave it there because it's getting a bit long and you're probably bored out of your minds. But I will be doing a video where I try out these rules in a 500 point battle between one force and another force. So I'll get on to that next.